Donald Trump literally just made crypto fund America's $36 trillion in debt, and here's what that actually means. The dollar was initially backed by gold, then oil. Now Trump passed a law secretly forcing crypto companies to fund U.S. government debt. A single cryptocurrency company already owns more U.S. debt than 19 countries. And this is the biggest change to how America borrows money in the past 50 years. So this is exactly where we need to go and start. Money is worth exactly what people believe it's worth. It's like nothing more. Like if you walk into a rural village and have never seen a US dollar and try to buy food with it, you go hungry, you walk into a Chipotle and hand over the same bill, you get a burrito. The difference is actually the belief. Now, more people equals more value. Local belief equals national belief equals global belief. If one country believes in the dollar, it has some value. If the whole world believes in it, it becomes the most valuable and most powerful currency that has ever created. And that's what makes the US dollar special. Now, what happened in 1944, the dollar became the world's money. After World War II, the US became the world's reserve currency. A global trade happened in dollars. Countries saved their wealth in dollars. That gave the US enormous power. But here's kind of like the big problem that we're all in. $36 trillion is a problem. Now that belief is under pressure because $36 trillion in national debt, China selling US bonds, Saudi Arabia accepting yuan for oil, the foundational belief is being tested. This is a crisis Trump is trying to solve right now. Now, gold, then oil, now crypto. Here's exactly how we got here. So in 1944, dollar becomes the world currency, backed by gold. In August 1971, Nixon takes dollar off gold standard temporarily, and then here we are like nearly half a decade or half a century later. In 1974, the petrodollar deal, dollar backed now by oil, and in 2023, Saudi Arabia sells oil in Chinese yuan for the first time in 50 years. And in 2015 now, Trump signs the Genius Act, which means crypto companies must fund the US debt. This is today's story. Stablecoins legally required to hold US dollars in treasuries, crypto companies forced by law to become the new lenders to the US government. Now, the dollar lost its oil backing in 2023, and here's exactly what this means. For 50 years, every country on earth needed US dollars to buy oil. This created artificial global demand for the dollar every single day. Then in 2023, Saudi Arabia started accepting Chinese yuan. Now, the petrodollar in plain English, why oil and dollars were linked for 50 years. Want to buy some oil from Saudi Arabia? You pay in dollars. Want to buy oil from any OPEC country? You pay in dollars. This means every country on earth had to hold dollars just to keep their economies running. This is guaranteed demand. Now, why the crack actually matters? Less oil demand for dollars equals less reason to hold dollars. If countries can buy oil in yuan, they need fewer dollars. Fewer dollars held globally equals dollars worth less. This is a structural threat to dollar dominance that has been building since 2023. Now, the dollar doesn't need oil. It needs something else to make the world want to hold it. In 2025, Trump found a new answer. And this is kind of like the core logic of the Genius Act. The US spends $2 trillion more than it collects every single year. In 2026, the US government will collect $5 trillion in taxes and spend about $7 trillion. That $2 trillion gap has to come from somewhere, and the traditional lenders are pulling back. So you have $36 trillion in national debt, growing $2 trillion every single year. You have a $2 trillion annual deficit. We spend $2 trillion more than we collect, and we have a $7 trillion government spend. So China turned net seller of US debt, no longer a reliable buyer. Japan, frozen holder of $1.2 trillion, pulling back due to domestic economic pressures, and private investors concerned about inflation and government ability to service $36 trillion of debt. Now, crypto countries, the new mandatory lenders, the Genius Act makes this law. Now, every digital dollar must be backed by real US debt by law. The Genius Act is simple. If a company wants to issue a stablecoin, a digital dollar, they must hold 100% of that value in the US Treasury or cash. Every $1 of digital currency issued equals $1 of the US government held debt. This is not optional. It's federal law. Tether, Circle, and any future stablecoin issuer must by law become lenders to the US government. The Treasury Secretary called it a debt relief engine. The mechanism in plain English, you buy $100 of USDT. Tether takes your $100. Tether buys 100 of US Treasury bond. US government gets funded. You get digital dollars. The US gets a new lender. Tether earns the 4% interest. That is a system. Now, a private crypto company owns more US debt than 19 countries. This is literally the new lender of America. You have 141 billion Tether US Treasury holdings. You have 164 billion Tether market cap. You have 81.5% held in T-bills and cash, and 15 billion Tether annual profit. Now, 1.2 trillion. Japan holds this much US debt. Tether already holds 141 billion. By 2030, crypto companies projected to hold 3.7 trillion. That's 3 times more than Japan. So the business model, you deposit, again, $100. They buy treasuries. Government pays them 4%, $4 a year per $100. With 141 billion in T-bills, they earn roughly 5 to 6 billion per year in interest with zero product, zero employees making anything. This is pure financial engineering. Now, by 2030, crypto companies will be the largest lenders to the US government. The Treasury Secretary of the US, not a crypto enthusiast, not a tech bro, but officially projected a 3.7 trillion stable coin market by 2030. He called it a debt relief engine. A 3.7 trillion stable coin company would hold more than 3x than Japan, and by 2030, crypto companies are projected to dwarf that. So why the Treasury loves this? Traditional foreign buyers like China and Japan are pulling back. The Genius Act creates a new mandatory buyer class that can't say no. Every stablecoin issued requires a Treasury purchase. It's structural automated demand for US debt. Now, a thriving stablecoin ecosystem will drive demand for a private sector for US Treasuries, which back stablecoins. This newfound demand could lower government borrowing costs and help rein in the national debt. Now, the full loop in plain English. Someone in Russia, Venezuela, or anywhere buys $100 of USDT. They want digital dollars because their local currency is unstable. Tether takes that 100 and buys 100 of the US bonds. US government pays Tether 4% per year. The customer gets their 100 digital USDT worth $100. Result, dollar demand grows globally. US debt gets funded. Tether profits. Now, countries trying to escape the dollar are secretly funding it. Okay? So, Russia trying to escape the dollar using dollar stablecoins. But Russia business and citizens have been using Tether extensively to transact. That's USDT. Every USDT now funds the US Treasury. Venezuela, hyperinflation, destroyed the Bolivar. Citizens turn to USDT. Again, the dollar won without being invited. Then you have developing world, billions of people using digital dollars for the first time, 28 trillion in payments in 2025, surpassing traditional payment giants. Millions of countries with weak currencies are adopting dollar stablecoins. Dollar adoption without dollar accounts. And then more buyers of debt equals lower interest rates. So here's exactly what you have going on. Now the risks is because there are real ones. Privatizing the dollar is not without serious danger. So the Terra Luna warning, 60 billion vanished in 3 days in 2022. Terra Luna was a stablecoin, not backed by treasuries, but still 60 billion in value evaporated in 72 hours. The Genius Act stablecoins are different. They're treasury backed, but stablecoins collapse happen and the system is being scaled massively. So the bank runs a risk. Mass redemption could destabilize treasury markets. IMF warned stablecoins mass redemption could transmit shocks at machine speed across borders. Estimates up to 6.6 trillion in potential bank deposit outflows. The system that funds the dollar could crack if confidence breaks. And then you have the privatization of concern. True private money creation, not government, not Fed. The Fed is private in name, but overseen by the government. Tether is genuinely private. Registered offshore, not a US entity, not FDIC insured. We are privatizing the money creation process in a way that's never seen before. Now the Tether regulation gap, Tether must comply or lose US access. Tether is not a US company. The Genius Act applies to stablecoins used by US persons. Tether either complies or risks losing access to US exchanges. How Tether navigates this in 2026 to 2027 will be one of the biggest stories in crypto. Now, JP Morgan, Bank of America, they're about to issue their own stablecoins. The Genius Act doesn't just regulate Tether and Circle, it creates an on-ramp for traditional banks to issue their own stablecoins. The FDIC approves rules for banks to issue stablecoins through subsidiaries. The OCC follows. This changes everything. So December 2025, FDIC approved rules for banks to issue payment stablecoins. February 2026, OCC published its own stablecoin rulemaking. By July 2026, final rules for both agencies. The infrastructure for bank-issued stablecoins is being built right now. So why this matters for investors? When JP Morgan issues a stablecoin, it doesn't replace Tether. It validates the entire asset class. This is an institutional moment. Stablecoins, the thing that has happened to EFTs when Vanguard and BlackRock entered, the market legitimization event is happening now. So is this really replacing the dollar with crypto? The title is a little bit dramatic, but Bitcoin is not backing the dollar. The Genius Act is about stablecoins and digital dollars. The nuance, still radical, just different from the headline. Even with precise framing, making private crypto companies mandatory lenders to the US government, it generally is unprecedented. And what is actually happening, the dollar is colonizing crypto infrastructure. Stablecoin capitalization will remain relatively small. And this is exactly what you could actually go out and see. Now, what this means if you're an investor or business owner, stop thinking about crypto as speculation. It's now an infrastructure. Stablecoins are becoming a utility. Understand them like you understand banks. And more buyers of US debt equals potentially lower interest rates. So stablecoins demands for treasuries grow. The structural buying pressure could push bond yields lower. Lower yields equals lower mortgage rates, car loans, business borrowing costs. Now, the window for stablecoin infrastructure plays is open right now. Dollar strength is the baseline assumption, crypto or not. Never invest in what you don't understand, but understand this. This is a structural change to how the US finances its debt. Understanding it doesn't mean you have to invest in crypto. It means you can see where money is moving, which is how every investment opportunity is found. Now, this is the bottom line. Gold to oil, now to stablecoins. The dollar keeps finding new buyers. Now, the Genius Act signed, Tether, the new Japan, and the risk, true money and private creation, IMF warns of systematic liquidity risk. If something goes wrong, it goes wrong at machine speed across borders because